Requests from viewers to show planting tomatoes in containers. This is a really good idea for people who don't have enough space, don't have an outdoor garden, or maybe just a balcony on a patio or something like that, where they can grow a tomato. There's a lot of reasons why you might grow tomatoes in a pot. There's just a few rules about growing tomatoes in containers from my point of view. One is the pot needs to be pretty large. Okay, so this one right here, it's going to hold, I think, 20, maybe 22 gallons of soil. That's a pretty good sized container. A 15-gallon container might also work, but it's really not as suitable for most tomato varieties. The larger the container, the better this is going to work. If you don't have room for a large container, then consider using an earth box. It's a commercial product specifically designed for growing plants like tomatoes in a self-watering, self-fertilizing system. They work well. I've used them before. They're a little bit expensive. These pots here I can get as a recycle item. You need a container. You need some soil. I have the soil back here. You need a trowel to dig into the earth with. You're going to need some fertilizer, and you will also require at least the tomato plant. So pot, trowel, tomato. I have some basil plants here and a little bit of Tom Thumb lettuce that's going in this pot. And then otherwise over here I got a bag of commercial potting soil, and you'll notice right there it says Organic Plus. All right, now I've said this before in videos, I'm going to repeat it again. On soils and fertilizers, the word organic means almost nothing. Okay, it's like saying that a hot dog is all natural in the supermarket. The words are reversed. Okay, if you look right down there where it says NPK, there it says natural fertilizer. Natural is the word you're looking for when it comes to fertilizers in soils. Organic just means that this was made out of something that at one time was alive and now it's dead. That's all that means. Okay. It's the word natural on soils that you're looking for. Don't be fooled by the word organic on the soils and fertilizers you buy. The only other thing that I would recommend, and that's this one right here, you can trust it, that's the OMRI certification. I believe it's Organic Materials Registration Institute. If you find that on the bag, you know you've got a nice quality product that's going to meet the requirements to grow organic vegetables. But food is one labeling called organic, and fertilizers and soil are another called natural. All right. So first thing first, I've already placed a certain amount of soil in the bottom of the pot, so we're about halfway up the pot. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and apply about a cup full of an organic fertilizer here. Maybe a little bit more. I'm not sure. We're going to spread that out evenly through the container, just like that. Next, I'm going to get my bag of potting soil right here. I'll cut that bag of potting soil open, like that. You keep your knife well sharpened. It cuts potting soil bags nicely. Now, I'm going to go ahead and fill this up most of the way. I need to use some head space in here. All right, because we're going to water this, and we need room to get some water inside the pot. So we don't want to fill it all the way up. If you fill it up too high, you're not going to be able to irrigate it properly. There we go. Okay, so that took about half a bag of soil to fill this container up completely. Probably take the entire bag of soil. This is a 1.5 cubic foot bag of soil. That's what we tend to call about a 20-gallon container. So that's about how much material you're going to need. A cup of organic fertilizer or natural fertilizer, about a bag of 1.5 cubic foot natural potting soil. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do here, and this is all really pretty basic stuff, not complicated. I'll make a hole right in the middle of the pot. That's for my tomato. Now, as I've said before about planting tomatoes, don't plant them too deep. But in this particular case, the pot's black, the soil's dark, it's airy, and the weather is warming up here. And so, we're going to be able to put this tomato in deeper in this container than I did with the ones I put into the garden. Alright, so I'm going to bury this thing so that the seed leaves go under the soil. Like that, right there. Okay? Press it in good. I'll support it nicely. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to leave my tag in here. This is an Ace 55. That's a kind of a classic California tomato variety. It's a good slicer, good market tomato. It used to be a main market tomato here in California at one point, and now it's kind of old-fashioned. I believe it came out around 1950 or so. But it's a good old-time tomato with a good quality, fairly sweet, and it is determinate, which is an important feature in a tomato if you're putting it into a container. Determinate means the plant will only grow out so far before it starts setting flowers and making fruit. So you could kind of say it's sort of a semi-dwarf thing. Determinates are not really dwarf plants, because there are dwarf tomatoes, but they work well in pots. I would avoid, in most cases, using indeterminate tomatoes, so the ones that keep growing and growing and growing. They will probably get pot bound. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, because I have some space in here, it's going to take the tomato a little while to start to fill the pot in, and I'm going to make one hole here on a triangle, one hole right over here, and then one right over here. Now, one of the companion plants that we like to put in with tomatoes is basil. They not only taste great together when we're cooking, but they also happen to like growing together well. And so the basil's going to jut out around the bottom of the tomato over here for me, giving me a little bit more harvest out of this pot. And, well, let's just say, for instance, if it happens that this pot right here is the only garden you have on your balcony in New York or San Francisco, if you have both tomato and basil in the same container, because they will grow together nicely, then you'll already have yourself a decent salad or a decent sauce going on here. Now, the one last thing I'm going to do too is, since it's going to take a little bit of a while for the tomato and the basil to start to size up, we have another triangle here, 3 points, and I'm going to fill those 3 points with a old-time dwarf lettuce called Tom Thumb. Okay, so I got some little Tom Thumb seedlings here that I started. No, since the plants are so small, we're going to try to keep the Tom Thumb just a little bit high, so when I water, I don't flood it under. So right here is some Tom Thumbs in the ground, and so for a comparison, there's my baseball cap right there. There's the size of one of these lettuce plants. You'll see how that's going to fit very nicely in between the tomatoes and the basil. It's only going to take about probably 30 days, maybe 35 days, just a little bit over a month for those Tom Thumbs to get to this size. So we're going to be able to pick tomatoes, basil, and lettuce out of the same pot. You see around the sides of the pot here, I've got a band of copper foil. I need to polish this up a little bit with some lemon juice or something, but that band is to keep the snails and slugs out of the container so they don't go crawling in here and chewing up my little vegetable garden. It's a good idea, especially if you're out in the backyard like I am here with all this wilderness all over the place. A lot of snails and slugs hiding out there. It's going to keep them out. We got everybody in place, and now the next thing to do is we're going to water them in. So I'm going to kind of carefully work my way around the edges of this pot here, gradually settling the soil down, because I don't want to overrun my lettuce plants, really is what I'm concerned with. They're quite small. This job is easier if your lettuce plants are a little bit bigger than the ones I just used. But whatever size, they're all going to work. So don't worry about putting a lot of water in here. The main point of what we're trying to do, other than dampening soil, is we're settling down the air in the pot. This is all quite airy. There we go. I'm starting to see water coming out of the bottom of my container, and that's a good sign. You want to make sure that that happens. Your pot should have good drainage. Now we got everything watered in. The final step is we need a tomato cage. Now, I'm out of tomato cages this year. All right, I have plain run out of the darn things because they're all out in my garden. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to improvise, and I'm going to use some bamboo stakes to create myself a tomato cage to hold this guy up. So first thing first here, I'm going to take all the stakes, gather them together at the top like this, and I'm going to wrap a piece of wire around him and then twist it tight. There we go. Now that'll hold the whole affair in place. You know, like I said, since I ran out of tomato cages, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some bamboo stakes, a piece of wire, and a shoelace. Alright, there we go. First rung on my tomato cage. This cage will require 2 rungs. As the plant begins to grow, I'll need another one to catch it up here. There we go. Improvised. We have a bamboo wire and shoelace improvised tomato cage. So there you have it. The tomato garden with basil and lettuce. And so if you have limited space, here's a solution. You can get 3 crops in a 20-gallon bucket. Happy gardening. Hope you enjoy.